Divine Set 2 is somehow already out. It feels like Divine Set 1 just came out in Japan just a couple months ago, and it truly was just a couple months ago. It was actually the week after Worlds happened, and 2 months has somehow passed since then. And this set, of course, introduces the remaining fated units, which, surprise, surprise, we thought was only going to be 6, but it's actually a whole 7. And so today, we're going to do our usual first impressions of the set. We've already kind of looked at everything with Twitch here, with our lovely Twitch chat. You can see over here if you want to join it, twitch.tv/differentvibe. It's for you to check out and join us on these recordings sometimes too. But as usual, we're going to look through the entire set and sort of break down every single nation and my thoughts. So strap in as we go through each nation and give my personal rating on each of their card pools. All right, so let's get into it and split it between the nations. So we'll start with Dragon Empire. And this is also very special about this set is that unlike every single set that we've had in the last, I want to say ever since, what was it? Set 10, I think? Or set 9, I guess, if you count the Dragon Tree generics, but set 9 or 10, we started getting essentially a generic cycle triple rare in every single nation, in every single set. So we essentially just have, you know, like it would always be like one of the triple rare slots would be like a generic. So like Biscotti and last set, like every single clan nation got one of those. But this time around, they didn't do that. And that's the first time in a very long time. And it might be because people are complaining, you know, that these generics are too expensive. Why would they make them triple rare? So they made them double rare instead. So that's these cards. We'll talk about them in a second. And each nation got the exact same card too, which is pretty cool, I think. So them being double rare does, you know, potentially make things better, which is very nice. So that means that all the triple rares in these sets are, for the most part, support for a certain deck, but then they sometimes do have a generic application somewhere else as well. So for Dragon Empire, we have our triples are basically split between a new ride line, which is looking to be pretty budget friendly, and then some support for like mixed support for Eugene and Gendiva, and support for Varga, of course, and then the double rares and commons are kind of like split between generics as well as all the other stuff too. First things first, I guess we should talk about the new ride lines. That is the Grai Andorra. So Grai Andorra is a very interesting one, and I feel like you can kind of tell its story from the arts. So it begins with this beautiful grade 0, which is the little baby dragon held by the kid. And then the grade 1, it's really nice. It's the kid grown up. And then the grade 2 is the dragon that hatched from the egg grown up. And then the grade 3 is them fused together. And they also have their own personal order, which is a generic as well, of them holding hands, which is very cool. It's a very nice little touch. I quite like it, especially aesthetically. So what does it do? Essentially, it lets you at the start of the main phase rest your Vanguard, which is kind of rare, but you rest it, and then you choose the grade 2 and 1 of the ride line. So this card, and you call them to rearguard circles, and you give this unit the skill that when the grade 2 attacks at the end of the battle that it did, you can put it and the grade 1 back into the soul to stand this Vanguard and give your front row plus 10k. So you might be thinking, oh, so basically it's like a 3 attack deck. Well, it's not exactly, because so the grade 2 itself is a 15k attacker that also, like, this whole ride line is free. You don't have to discard to ride into it, which is very, very nice. But the grade 1 basically says that at the beginning of your battle phase, so you go from main phase to battle phase, it lets you rest itself to give the grade 2 the ability to attack from back row and plus 10k. So it's 25k being able to attack from the back row. So you can still have 2 other front row rearguards to attack with this from like behind the Vanguard, for example, and then you still stand this Vanguard after that. I can still attack with the Vanguard too. So you still get 4 attacks, and it seems pretty decent. I mean, it's the fact that also the ride line doesn't use any counterblast whatsoever, including the Vanguard itself, is also pretty cool, because you can choose to play, you know, things like a heavier order engine, because of course they do have their own personal order, which lets you choose your Vanguard and give it the skill that when this unit stands, your front row gets plus 10k. So it also works really well in conjunction with the deck itself, but there's also actually a generic card that you can play in Overlord, you can play in Varga, you can play in Premium, and so any deck that restands suddenly is now really, really good. So now some people are also thinking about playing this deck together with the BT11 generic cycler that works with orders, so you can also choose to adapt that. So honestly, it's not a bad ride line. I think it's actually pretty good. It's not going to be anything like meta relevant or like Varga or anything like that, but I do think it's going to be okay in general. So I don't think it's going to be Dragon Empire pile. The pile's going to be very small compared to, you know, Kitter's huge pile, but we do have other cards, of course, in this set that don't necessarily care about this grade 3. So they gave a mixed support between Eugen and Gandiva that basically says you Soul Blast 1, Energy Blast 3 when you call this to retire an opponent's rear, and if you did not, then you can draw a card and give himself the skill that when at the end of the battle your Vanguard attacked, you stand one of your front row rear guards. So your opponent has to have an empty or untargetable board in order for you to have the restand skill. He also gets boost if you play a normal order, which works with Gandiva because of Best Harvest, but the problem is that if your opponent, like if you don't take out your opponent's entire board, or if you whip Gandiva skill or something like that, you are gonna be in trouble because you don't get to proc the restand effect. So I do think the card is good, but it's not as good as it could be. I think it's a good card, but at the same time it's like, you know, it's a little strange. A promo will save this deck. They already have a Eugen Gandiva promo. I don't know. I'm not feeling too hot. So I think looking at the triple rare so far, like they're both cool and fun cards, but are they necessarily like game changers? Not necessarily, but Roxey, the Varga support, is actually a pretty big game changer for the deck, because when you call this to rear and you have a Varga Vanguard, it makes your opponent be unable to intercept for the whole turn. And when any player's rear guard is retired from the front row, if your Vanguard's a Varga, he retires himself to draw a card. So what's really cool is that this works in conjunction with Shura from the previous set, who on attack gives one of your rear guards the ability that when they get retired, you draw a card. Oh, sorry, you don't, I mean, this lets you draw a card, but the Shura says that when it's retired, instead of going to drop, it goes back to your hand. What this means is that you can essentially use Shura to target Rokusei every single turn and basically disable your opponent from intercepting for the entire game, which is pretty big considering that Eva is looking to be back in the spotlight and definitely likes Obfuscate intercepts quite a lot. So something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. I do think Roxey is a really, really good card and definitely feels like the big hit of the triple rares for Dragon Empire this time around. But of course, that's just the triple rares. What about the lower rarities, right? We have a draw / power distributor for the Grai deck, which is pretty good. The Grai deck actually got some extra support too. They got another Energy Blast 3 to draw card, which is also very nice. Another power gainer as well. And then they, you know, the Radland itself is pretty good too. So it's overall like quite a bit of support. They also got this little thing that kind of retires opponent's back row grade 1 rear guards, which is okay, but you know, it's like this deck got some good support. They got this interesting card that feels like it's a set ahead of its time if you've seen the early festival booster reveals. It's Energy Blast 3 on plays to retire an opponent's rear guard equal to how many set orders they have. So we do have generic set orders that work again around guard restrict now and coming out in festival booster, but this was originally seen as just like an anti-Brancate kind of deck or card. So it's kind of interesting how this card may be used in the future. So it has future potential. It also gains plus 10k if your opponent doesn't have any rear guards, which in an Eva meta is not especially that good, but could actually see some play surprisingly. And then we have our generic grade 1. So every nation got this exact same card where when you place this from hand to rear guard circle, if you have not played an order this turn, you ditch a card from hand, search your deck for a non-regular piece order card, it can be both blitz and normal order, you discard it, and for that turn you give that order the effect that you are able to play this from the drop, and if you did, then it goes to bot deck after that. So it's interesting because if you, for example, ditch a mask from this effect, you can choose to not activate the mask and just resolve this effect up until the discard, so that way you don't have to activate the mask top 5 search. So yeah, this can search your Drag Resonance, your Best Harvest, so it actually works pretty well in decks like that. But every nation got one of these cards with the exact same effect, so it's just a good double rare in general. So this is the generic card for this set basically. But double rares, the good double rares don't end there. They gave Jiva a really, really good card. This is a double rare that says when it's placed on rear and from either, you know, from during your turn, or if it was ditched from your hand this turn, If you have a Nirvana Vanguard, Energy Blast it's 3 in order to choose a crossover dress from your drop and add it to your hand. This is pretty good because sometimes, especially in the early game, you don't really know what to ditch from your hand. This is one of the options, but it also lets you just get back crossover dresses. Like sometimes you really do run out of the crossover dresses to go into, and you know, Strive Arena, you need to win the game and you don't have it, and it's like, well, here you go, there's a way to get it back. And also because it says when it's placed on rear, it doesn't say where. So if you call this from Jiva's own effect, it will also proc, which is really good. So you can use Jiva's effect to ditch this and then call it back out, and I believe you're able to proc it twice, which is also pretty good. And on top of that, of course, you know, Jiva brings this back in a Trickstar back, and then you're able to immediately put them into the crossover dress of whatever you just got back to, which is pretty good. And when it becomes original dress, it's Soul Blasts 1 to countercharge 1. Like it's everything. They basically gave a CAC to Jiva, which is good. Jiva needs CACs. So by the way, CAC stands for create a card if you're new around here. So yeah, very, very good card. Double rares for Dragon Empire, honestly, are pretty banging. Then we have the manga protagonists. This is the Skyride protagonist. I think his name is Zero. His protagonist unit is Vajira. So Vajira is a pretty simple grade 3, but his ride line is really good. So on Energy Blast 3, he can pop an opponent's rear guard and bind, so he binds an opponent's rear guard and then calls a grade 2 unit card from your drop. So it's pretty simple and very generic. And when he attacks, he can almost 1 to stand a grade 2 rear guard. So it's like super, super simple with that one. But what I want to point your attention towards is the ride line, because English is getting this too. The ride line is actually super generic. So you have the grade 0, of course, it does the same thing as every other grade 0, but the grade 1 gains plus 2k for every one of your rear guards. So you might not want to do that. It only does that on Vanguard Circle. But when you would ride from the ride deck, he lets you Soul Blast 1 instead. So that's his other Vanguard Circle effect. So this can actually be a pretty good fit into Varga, because Varga's grade 1 of his ride line is honestly not that great. So you could even just play this grade 1 and then go into the grade 2 of the Varga ride line, or you can go all the way to the grade 2 of this ride line, which is over here, which does have an effect that works with the Vajira grade 3, where you can show it in your ride deck if you have 4 more rear guards to gain a crit. But he has an on-ride effect. So when you ride over him, you look at top 7 for a grade 2 and add it to your hand. But if you rode into a Vajira, then you search your whole deck for grade 2. The really strong thing is that, again, in things like Varga, you can basically pick up something like a Shura that we mentioned before, the Boulder Axe, like all these kind of things. You can find your gun cyclers, your other cyclers. So honestly, it's top 7 is a pretty big search. So I feel like you're going to be seeing this ride line in quite a few decks. So I really want to point that out too. I feel like Dragon Empire really won pretty hard this set just because of like all the good low rarity cards in this set in general. So Vajira's ride line I'm pretty impressed with. Then Varga got like a when retired an opponent's rear guard, so it lets you touch back row in Varga, which is kind of new. And then again, some Morgan Diva support that lets you call from the top. Some cards are not really worth talking about as much, and every single one of the quick start decks got a support common that basically says end of battle at boosted if your Vanguard is the quick start deck boss unit. You can retire this and then from solar drop, put the grade 3 of the quick start deck to the bottom of the deck and then do something and usually draw a card or countercharge or whatever. So he lets you retire an opponent's rear guard, and if you didn't, you draw a card. So that's honestly pretty damn good. But you'll see the other nations also got one of these as well. So honestly speaking, there's also really cool looking manga order for the Vajira ride line. The effect is not that good, but it looks metal as hell, so I like it just for that. But overall, honestly, Dragon Empire in this set feels like it's quite good. It's like the triple rares maybe leave a bit to be desired. The Gandiva support could be good. I personally don't rate it that very highly. I think the budget new ride line is probably going to be very budget and probably quite decent too. And this is going to be very, very good. Varga is looking to be a top contender in this set, in my opinion. And the generics are nice. This is nice. You got a whole new generic ride line on top of that too. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it, and also very good generic order, which I'm glad that they are keeping up the tradition of good generic orders too. So overall, Dragon Empire, in my opinion, after having looked at the whole set, I don't think, okay, is Dragon Empire good enough to get a 4 or 5? The high rarities would have to be a bit better for that. I think even with all the nice things I've been saying, I want to give it a 4. I want to give it a 4 to 5. It's definitely not a 5, but Keter, yeah, but then I don't want to give Keter, like Ketter's definitely a 4. Okay, you know what? The bad ones are getting 2s this time. I'm gonna be real. The top priority should have been better. This gets a 3. It gets a 3 to 5. We're gonna be harsher to the bad ones. This gets a 3 to 5. I think there's a lot of good stuff, but there's just some stuff left to be desired at the same time. It's a hard decision. I don't know. I'm wrestling with this right now. But moving on to Dark States. Now this is where the high rarity is really good. So of course we have our Faded 1 of 0 Blagdmire, which of course everybody had a huge reaction to, of like, whoa, we're going crazy. We're gonna be not letting you PG by any means and all the kind of stuff. But then people kind of, after playtesting, realized, hey, Blagdmire seems to have a bit of a hand problem. It seems to really invest everything into one turn, and like that one turn is really strong, but if you guard everything early, it doesn't really do too much. So of course, I've already made videos about Blagdmire. You probably already know what the effects do. You know, he basically, I think one of the strong things about him that people overlook is that he lets you bind your opponent's rear guards, which is really strong. And on top of that, of course, he has the big power gain and all that stuff, but without even touching his divine skill, he has big power gain. He has that removal, which is really annoying, and it costs nothing. It costs you soul, I guess, but doesn't cost you CB or anything. So for that reason, it's pretty good. We're doing nothing with this one. That's right. But I think I will make an updated tier for divine skills. I saw you guys quite like the one I did in set 1. I do have a lot to say about his divine skill being very, very non-generic and just being exclusively only good with himself. But at the same time, I do think Blagdmire is a really strong boss unit that with just a, like, honestly, I don't know. I want to say with just a bit more support could be even better, but the problem is that with just a bit more support, it can also be way too good. This feels like the easiest card to accidentally mess up because the divine skill is crazy. What this card does is crazy. The support it has in the set is already crazy. It's just that they didn't give it too much card draw because they knew it would be too insane. So I'm a little worried if we give it a bit too much card draw. That's all I'm gonna say. So we're gonna have to see how it goes. If they give it like a personalized swirler that also draws you a card or something, then it's Jover. It's actually Jover. But again, good triple rare. Really, really strong. Again, watch the Blagdmire video if you want to know what it does in more detail. This card is also pretty crazy, being a, like, again, on play, look CB1, look at top 3, put 1 to soul, and then, or you can, I mean, you can choose any number from that you put to soul, but if you put 1 or more to soul, you get to draw a card. So again, it is card draw, and he's a 15k 2 crit attacker, which is for Energy Blast 3, which is like, you can't over abuse it. Energy Blast 3 is a bit of a cost and doesn't draw you cards either, which is pretty important. So they're both really strong cards. But then we have Bifrons. Bifrons is a Almagestar support, but it's actually a generic. It's actually Selgaon at the same time. So once you split it from hand to Rearguard Circle, you CB1, look at top 3, put 1 to hand, 1 to soul, and 1 discarded. This reads like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's like, this is genuinely pretty crazy because the worst case scenario is like, you CB1, look at top 3, PG OT. It's like, it's Jover. You know, you do have to, you discard the rest, so there's no way to put it back to deck, but in most case scenarios, especially in the early game, this is going to be really, really good. Being a CB1 like filter. It feels like a buddy fight card. I feel like Buddy Fight had a lot of cards like this, which were like, pay a gauge, look at top 3, draw 1, charge 1, and then like ditch 1. It really feels like it was like that. It is CB1 that provides you a hand, a soul, and gets your thing to drop. This is supposed to be played in Almagestar. It can mill you your mask, which is also pretty nice. Although at the same time, I'm thinking what else is good for this to mill in other decks. I feel like there's not as much, but it is pretty good. And if there's anything that like works when discarded, it'll also be procced by this too. But the second effect is that when you have an Almagestar Vanguard, you Soul Blast 1, Energy Blast 3, search your deck for either an Astroa or a critical, put it to Soul, and then if you put something to Soul, you choose a card with a different name from her from your drop that is equal to or lower grade than your Vanguard and call it. That's also a really good effect because it doesn't cost CB, it's a non-CB +1 to board. It can also put your original Astroa to your soul that you can banish with Astroa Unica because that banish effect is really good. It gives you a drive, and you can also set up your crits if you're missing any. So Optimally, don't want to put too many, of course, but still, it's just a really, really good card. So the all 3 triple rares and Dark States are just like, you know, 10 out of 10. Then we have a really good doll support. As you all know, dolls are actually a pretty good deck already. They have a, you know, kind of trouble of going into time potentially, but they got a card that puts a Direful Doll from your drop to soul, which you want to be doing all the time, and also gets plus 5k for every grade of that card. So if you put the grade 3, boom, 25k attacker, and she binds herself at the end of the battle, which means she's a 10k shield you can call from the Direful Doll Master, and she has an on-hit retire for no reason. It's like, it's free. It's literally, she didn't have to have that. It's like, they just slapped it on. It's like, oh, might as well, you know, it's like, let's give this deck some like on-hit pressure. Might as well, for the funsies, right? Good card. Barrow Magnus got support, and it's also a good card. It's like, you call this Energy Blast 2, choose 2 normal units from drop, bot deck them, soul charge 2. And then if you have 15 or more soul, or if you've soul charged 3 times this turn or more, 25k attacker. Gets fell 17k. Like, damn. Even Barrow got good stuff. Like, Darkseid is eating. This is the order searcher that we talked about. We play a lot of orders. Like, you can search whatever you want with this, like masks, pandemonium, tactics, doesn't really matter. Like, so many targets for this. Boom, you can find them all. This thing is cracked. This is, in my opinion, what makes Blackmire pretty insane. Being a thing that boosts Blackmire for 15k, and then if you have 4 more cards in bind, CB1s and stands a rear, and if you have 8 or more cards in bind, gives it 15k. You give this monster 15k, it is hitting for 30k minimum without Persona Ride. Your opponent can't use PGs in the Divine Skill turn, by the way. Good god. This is very, very good. Very, very good. And it doesn't end there. Blackmire got this card too, which is like, when it goes to soul by an effect, you bind it and draw 1, if you have a Blackmire grade 3 or greater. And it also, when it attacks, gets plus 10k and then puts itself to soul. So that means if you soul charge it by an effect, it draws you a card. If you soul charge it by its own effect, draws you a card. Provides you a card in bind zone. It's like, perfect setup, another amazing card. Even like the mid cards are interesting. It's like, this thing's like on attack Vanguard Energy Blast 4, pop an opponent's, so your opponent chooses one of the rear guards and pops it, she gets plus 5k. If you didn't pop, soul charge 2. So it's like, sorry, I mean, she just looks good, but it's like, still, it's still like an interesting kind of card, right? More Elma Jester support. This one's kind of alright. It's like ditch 1, look at top 2, put 1 to hand, and then put the rest on top of the deck or in soul, and then get plus 5k for the turn. Again, another like good common, right? This thing is like a deleter skill. It's like a whole box of text, but this soul charges you cards, and it gives the opponent the skill that, you know, it retires itself if you've used your divine skill this turn at the end of the turn to draw 1 and give your opponent's Vanguard the skill of like, hey, you want to ride this turn? You're gonna have to discard 1. So if you're an OG player, you remember deleters. They used to do that. Or if you're a Zero Kid, you also remember deleters because they were pretty good at the time. So this won't be played in many copies because you only use the divine skill once, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, literally, we're just reading the Dark State stuff and it just keeps on going, right? And last set, it was really good too. It's not like it's only this set, right? It feels like some of the other nations kind of got that treatment, but again, like the ride line is good for Blackmire, the support for Oserajest is good, there's another dull energy charger that's good. It's like, so many good cards. Honestly, Dark States is just eating. Like, they even got this interesting order as well, which is like, you ditch 1 to play this, which is kind of heavy, but you give your Vanguard the skill that the first time you retire an opponent's rearguard, you draw 1 and soul charge 1. The second time you retire an opponent's rearguard by an effect, you draw 1, soul charge 1, and give that unit plus 10k. So it's like, I'm not sure what it works in specifically right now, but it's, again, interesting card design that makes us think like, oh, what are they designing this around? Are dolls bad in a 25-minute format? Yes, and I think that's why they're supporting them to make them a bit faster, hopefully, but I also hope they just up the tournament timer to 30 minutes. And that's Dark States. And honestly, I feel like it would be wrong to not give it a 5 out of 5. Like, this is the one, spoiler alert, potential 5 out of 5 of the set because there's just so much gas. The bad cards are like a random common here and there. Those are allowed, you are allowed to have a bad common here and there, and still be considered very good from this set because what people are mostly opening these packs for are like the rares and above, right? So I think that's pretty good. Dark State is definitely a big winner. Brancate is a mixed bag because it actually has some very big winner cards here, to the point that some people are saying that our dear Prison might actually be one of the top tier decks again. So before we talk about that though, we do have a new rod line, Rotobaiza. It's a Nova Grappler themed, or like it comes from Nova Grappler as a Brank 8 rod line, but it does have some issues. But let's talk about the cards first, right? So he says, if you have 3 or more arena orders in your order zone, he gives all your front row plus 5k. And at the end of the battle, he attacks, counterblast 2 to draw a card, stand rear guards equal to the amount of arena orders you have. If you stood 3 or more, the stood units get plus 5k. So what the hell is an arena order? It's a grade 2. It's Gundam EX Versus. Gundam EX Versus that you can play at your local arcade. And it basically says that when your unit attacks, if you have a Loader Visor Vanguard and you haven't rested this arena yet during that battle, you can rest it and give the attacking unit a skill that if it hits, you either countercharge 1 or energy blast 2. So that kind of makes the counter blast 2 kind of okay, right? You can use this 3 to 4 times a turn. Chances are one of those attacks will actually hit. You can even use this during your Vanguard attack too, which you can kind of expect to hit potentially too. So the problem is, this is a grade 2, which means you can't set it on turn 1. And you want to have 3 of them set, which means you have the Eva problem that she had at the very beginning, where you'll only have 3 of these set on turn 4. Sad. But, as we all know, Brank 8 is never out. Brank 8, let me tell you, Prison released, everyone was like, Prison is a joke. Prison is horrible. This is the worst deck ever made. Boom, pure light. Kino, cinema. Eva comes out. Oh my god, Eva is so bad. Turn 4 deck. There's no research cards. Oh my god, he doesn't even gain a crit until turn 4. Horrible deck. Best deck in format for multiple formats. Absolute cinema. Then, Welstra. Huh, what a joke. You can't even Freischütz maximum until like turn 74. It's literally unplayable. Boom. One of the best Divine decks in the game. Absolute cinema. So what I'm trying to say here, I can keep on, dude, B heroes. Freaking B heroes, bro. Actual 0 to hero. I can go on. Almost every single Brank 8 ride line that started off poo poo pee pee, just dog water, suddenly ends up being top tier eventually. And what I'm trying to say is our friend Rotobaiza, I think you should take a good look at him. Like, would a dude this buff be bad? Of course not. They know what they're doing. We're gonna get a broken promo, and I wish that wasn't the way that they did things, and it would be part of the set, or maybe it'll be a double rare or a rare cope or a broken double rare. That's fine. I'll take a broken double rare. Surely if Blackmire can have a promo 1 month after coming out, so can Rotobaiza, right? Grade 1 arena, anyone, please? So yeah, I think that the deck itself should round itself out. It's the concept is fine, right? The concept is fine, so we'll be all right. But anyway, we can talk about the support cards. He got a 15k attacker that also lets you energy blast 3 to draw a card and give another unit plus 5k. Not too bad. Draw card is good. We like to draw card. Got an order searcher, so this can find you your arenas while countercharging eventually, which is pretty nice as well. What else did this one get? His ride line is pretty decent as well, so points there. You got a card that lets you dig your arenas out of your damage if you need to, which is also pretty good. So that way your 4 arenas will definitely eventually end up in the order zone. And you still have like other good attackers, you know, that gain power that you can reuse with the restand. So it's okay. It's Arvin Robust as well, doing some work. So we'll see. I have high hopes. Brank 8 decks always work out eventually. But let's talk about a deck that did work out, and that is Prison, baby. Oh my god, they revealed this card on my birthday. I was overjoyed. Drawn by Fuzichoko Sensei, one of my favorite artists in the game, of course. And it's cinema. But when you call her, your opponent chooses a card from drop and puts it to your prison. Oh my god, it's over. They're gonna put Obfuscate in the prison. How could this be? Why do they keep printing cards that let my opponent choose? But fret not. If they did Energy Blast 3, draw a card. Cinema. Birthday cack. That's right. But that's not all. When your Seraph Vanguard attacks, if you have 3 or more cards in prison, dude. I put 3 cards in prison by waking up. She gets plus 10k. Okay. But if you have 5 or more, count plus 1, stand her. Damn. Minimum 20k standing rearguard in prison. the ultimate forever 3-attack deck. We can never give multi-attack to Prison because Pure Light, bros. Pure Light makes her, what is it? On 10 Prison, she's gonna have her crit. And then she's also gonna have, what is it? You got 25k, 35k. She's a 45k? She's a 45k minimum with a crit? Restanding? You put 2 of her down? That's happening twice. You die, you die, you die, you lose. Shake hand, pay for my McDonald's order. This is cack alert for sure. After seeing this, Buff Sagara bros, you're next. This is like the All Might meme. You're next. This is, you can believe. You can believe. You're allowed to believe now. The super cack. It's crazy. How do you even counter this? Defensive OT. The strongest counter in the world. Valve needs it. That's right. Dude, this card is funny. The more you think about it. It also hand rips, like, don't forget Pure Light asks for 2 cards from your opponent's hand. You die. You die. Dude, it's crazy. Enough of that. There's some more Prison supported here, but this is definitely the highlight. We also have Ibuki Koji as a card, finally. So exciting. Everyone loves him. So this was one of the first reveals that we had in this set, and it's very, very good. This is actually the Selgaon slash Shenri for Brancate, because the things written on this card are pretty insane. When you boost with it, if you have a grade 3 Vanguard, and if you have 2 or more set orders, it gets plus 5k. No cost whatsoever, so it's already really cool. But when the end of the battle of his boost happens, if you have a set order in your order zone, even just one, you can put into Soul. Oh my god. We gain Soul, and look at top 5 of your deck. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can find a grade 2 or greater unit card or a set order, reveal it, add it to your hand. We did it. We did it. It's Shenri, it's Selgaon, it's crazy. Like, this lets you find your Persona Rides, your Gun Cyclers. This works on turn 1, by the way, in a lot of decks. It's so good. This is like, you're putting this into Wellstra, you're putting this into Heroes. Eva, I wanted to put it in, but the Kaiju package is so good, I don't really have space anymore. You could put this into Prison. You can find the new grade 2 off of this. You just need 1 card set. Prison is the 1 card. Done. Honestly, he's really good. Remember his name. Barudarido. Barudarido. You should give him a little hat. He sounds like he could use one. But great deck. Yeah, the Bat deck for the 2 players in the world that play the Batman deck. So anyway, as you can see, the triple rares, you might think that Rotobizer is bad, but come back in a year, Worlds, top 8, 5 Rotobizers. It's gonna be crazy. But these 2 are already crazy from the very beginning. It's gonna be something else. But talking about this, Heroes got some support. This basically lets you use your hero base's act skill for free without having to discard, which is really nice. This is the Order Searcher, some more hero support. Orphis, so the Orphis support is a little mid, but it's like, this thing stands itself when you play a SMT token, you know, Shin Megami Tensei token in the same column. This is like a Soul Blast 1 to imprison something, and if you didn't, get 10k, so it's like actually pretty good too. And it's like, you have this thing that has like amazing art that gets 15k when you call him over a SMT token, and you have this thing, it's a lizard. Conroe gained some guns, basically. But that's actually not a good card, sorry. It's Energy Blast 5. You should never pay Energy Blast 5 for 1 card unless it's winning you the game. But we also got a counter charger for Ashterm that puts back your Ashterms. You got this thing. When he boosts Energy Blast 2s to give you the boosted unit plus 5k for the turn. So this can work pretty well in Rotobizer as well. And any other restanding multi-attack decks that reuse the same attacker. And we got a really cool Blitz order too that lets you Soul Blast 1 to choose the attacked unit. And for every rested set order you have, get plus 10k for the battle. So pretty good. Like in Eva, you usually have 3 rested. In Archite, you're gonna have quite a few rested too. And also in Heroes, you have quite a few rested. So works pretty well in those kind of decks. So pretty excited to potentially use them there. Zeal, is that you? Oh my god. So Brancate, honestly speaking, I think we gotta give it a 4 to 5. I'm afraid maybe we were too harsh on Rotobizer on the first evaluation. I think especially these 2 cards definitely carry Brancate in this one. We got some cacks in here, bro. Like Hero's got pretty good cards too. Hugely amazing generic, amazing prison support, and a lot of other good stuff here and there. So honestly, good stuff. I like. Moving on to Keter, which is probably the reason why you're watching this video, because I feel like you and me, baby me, nothing but angel feather enthusiasts. we definitely do appreciate a good angel feather looking unit, and definitely designed and in that direction. Only halfway. Whoops. Did what? Damn, but suddenly that song makes a lot more sense. Although I feel like maybe my audience too young to know about what was the name of the band? The Bloodhound Gang. But anyway, so let's talk about Keter. There's quite a lot to talk about, and honestly, I think Keter's eating this set. It's pretty crazy. So of course, our new 7th fated one, Liel Amorta. So she is a really strong card. She lets you go on attack, CB1, choose a rear guard, bind it, search your deck for the same card, haul it. 4 attacks, very good. And then she says you play her in Guardian Circle, you can discard a card and choose 2 cards from your bind zone that you've been chucking into, you know, throughout the game, and put them to the bottom of your deck. And then she acts as a PG for fated decks. So pretty good. And then on top of that, her divine skill, which requires another copy of herself in the drop zone, lets you, end of battle, if your opponent's on grade 3 or greater, very important, don't do this going first turn 3, choose a copy of herself in the drop, ride at a stand, and lose a drive. So this one's like, again, kind of generic, but I'm not really sure if you would use this in anything in Keter. I feel like Rezael was really cool. It was like, oh, I play a Keter deck that goes to deck out, I can go into Rezael. Whereas like, she's like, I have to dedicate 4 deck slots to this, and she only works as a PG in Rezael and herself. It's like, I don't know. But I do think she is a good boss unit despite that, right? 4 attacks on a Persona Ride turn, she can do more than that, right? Because you go rear, Vanguard, and then she copies herself, she becomes a new Vanguard. Then you swing with that rear, you swing with that Vanguard again, you make another rear, yeah, there you go. 6 attacks. Pretty good, pretty good. You can use Carbre. Not the best. I built a deck and did a test hand with it and I was like, wow, this is horrible. But if you played Carbre, you could do 8 attacks on her divine skill turn, but you're also eating a lot of CB and soul, which you don't have that much of. But I think she's gonna be pretty good. I'm pretty excited to play her. Genuinely just really love the design. I think it's just it's cinema. It's Kino. It's great. She got a little support, triple rare. That's a 20k attacker, but only if you have another copy of himself in the bind zone. So not on his first attack, he's gonna be a bit small. And he has to be bound from drop during your turn to soul blast 1, draw a card, and give you rank plus 5k. So he's kind of a vanilla until turn 3, unlike the majority of grade 2s in Keter Sanctuary, which is pretty rare, but it is what it is. She also has a personal booster. That's a 30k booster behind anything, but behind her, she's a 15k booster that also lets you give one of your other units a extra plus 5k as long as you have a card in the drop with the same name as one of the cards on your field. So it's not too bad. It also puts a card from your drop to the bottom of the deck, so that way you don't deck out and you can keep having targets to, you know, call. I think the biggest fear for me with this deck is like going like attack, bind something, search deck, oh, I drew into my last copy. It's like, you know, it's like, it's pain. It's pain. So gotta be careful. So I think she will probably be used. And then we got 23k attacker. Kind of wish this thing did more, but also is for Liel Amorta. Is there any other super exclusive Liel Amorta cards except for the Ryland? The Ryland's really good too, by the way. I guess the, you know, Guragaon, the doggo, this card is really, really good in both Rezael and Liel Amorta, where when your unit is placed by your Vanguard with a divine skill ability, it gets the skill, the dog gets the skill, that at the end of all that it boosted, it retires itself to countercharge 1, and it also gets the 5k before it does that whole retire. So you can swing with Liel, you can swing with rear, swing with Liel, call something, and then the dog will get that skill. So then it'll boost with 13k and then retire itself to countercharge 1, which is pretty good in my opinion. So honestly, the dog is looking to be a very, very good card for Liel, but it's also going to be a very good card for Rezael too, because it retires itself, Rezael calls him drop, so it kind of works out. Another card that honestly could work with Liel is her. So I initially saw this card, I was like, oh my god, I love this art so much, but when she's placed from deck, she gets plus 15k. So I'm just saying, you call her from Liel, she's a 28k attacker without Persona. It's honestly not too bad. Could be a potential use, but yeah, it's the masher for Liel basically. But bro, she's I'm matching something else. That's all I'm gonna say, bro. Anyway, moving on. Enough talking about Liel, bro. It's getting out of hand. We got some other decks that got support this set. We have Inland Pulse, but it looks like Young Fosado. This reminds me of something else. This reminds me of like there's another unit in Vanguard that has this like, this looks like a horse helmet. It's like the helmet looks like it's a horse kind of, but actually no, it looks like more like an Oni actually. But anyway, forget what I said. Maple Story character, whatever you say. So this thing is crazy. When he's placed by your grade 3 or greater Vanguard's ability, he's a 20k. So like this also works with Liel, but it's honestly works with whatever. But when at the end of Valley attack, if your Vanguard's a Rezael, use Energy Blast 3 and put it into Soul to draw 1, peek at the top. Oh my god, it's OT. I leave it on top. Yee. It's like you can leave it on top or bottom. It's insane. You pass turn after this. You pass turn after you use this. It's like if you have 2 of him, you can realistically go like, okay, I attack with him. Energy Blast 3, put the Soul, draw a card, look at top. Oh my god, a PG, epic, it stays on top. And then you go with another one, and you go, haha, go to Soul, draw 1. Hey, it's the PG, look at top. Wow, OT, stay on top. It's like, whoa, crazy guy. Sajas, who? Forget about Sajas, bro. Sajas doesn't draw cards. So this card is insane in freaking Rezael, dude. It's actually ridiculous. Like, I think Rezael is gonna be really good in this set. That's all I'm gonna say. Then we have Youthberg support. This is also technically MLB support because of Blaster Blade Television. So this thing says when your Vanguard is placed during the battle phase, technically it works with Liel's Divine Skill. We're just gonna get that out there. Energy Blast 3 to counter charge 1, and this unit and that unit get plus 5k. Oh my god, 5k to himself and Youthberg full blast. In before it's just Zest, lol. But good card. I mean, works with Blaster Blade TV, works with Youthberg, works with Liel, might work with other things in the future too. And your horse, true, Leuhan. He sounds like Leuven, which is a city in Belgium. works with one city in Belgium. Very cool. This is the Order Searcher that every nation got. Good card by default. Cope Francis. Cope Francis has graduated from Cope Academy and has finally become a true Pope after this amazing support has become Hope Francis. He finally gives hope. Happy Easter, by the way. So when you call him to rear, if you have a Soul Rare on grade 3 or greater Vanguard, damn, the timing of this video is really good. I just realized we're just after Easter. So you CB1, you look at top 5, you choose 2 grade 3 or lower unit cards and call them. And if you call 2, you take 1 card from your hand, you show it to your opponent, you go, hey, look at this. And then if it's a normal unit, you put it on top of your deck. And if it's not, you discard it. But usually it's going to be a normal unit. So CB1 to call 2 cards and also stack your deck to use Sol Raron's effect. This thing is crazy. Hope Francis, bros. I'm converted. I'm converted. That's not all. You got a counter charge. Got a counter charger that provides soul and draws. Sol Raron got a counter charge that provides soul and draws. They cooked. They saved Hope Francis. I cannot believe it. There's actually more. There's actually another card. There's this thing too. This thing lets you on place. He lets you choose a grade 2 or lower normal unit that isn't a Sentinel from drop. Put it on top of your deck of soul. Like, it's amazing. It's genuinely flabbergasting. They saved it. So honestly, there's not a single Keter card that I can really like. I wish this card was a bit better. That's the only negative thing I've said so far. This also works with youth. It's like in drop when your Vanguard's placed in battle phase, Energy Blast 3, call it to back or rearguard circle. It's like pretty good. Also works with Blaster Blade, the Vanguard. It's like there's really nothing. There's nothing to complain about. It feels so good. It feels so good, bro. Is it going from Cope to Hope? Is it a 5 out of 5? Is this? I think it. What am I docking points for? What is there to dock points for? I think Keter deserves a 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. Forget that. Adding to the Keter pile. That's right. Being too hot, man. Leal Morta, Rezel, I think we speak the same language. I see what you mean, bro. Moving on to Stoicheia, surprisingly, pretty close to 5 out of 5, but definitely some parts are lacking. So of course, Zorga is the main support. Zorga itself is amazing. The Divine Skill is really good in Zorga, but it's kind of fine for the nation in general, but it lets you have a really strong Alchemagic, provides new orders, provides a way to revive units and gives them power too. Gives you grade 2 Roaming Prison Dragon, but which is kind of bad going first, but really good going second. However, really bad third triple rare. It supports tier dragons. It was supposed to be Flagberg support. It supports Maelstrom a little bit better. It lets you give a unit the effect that it gets 5k every time it attacks, which is like, yeah, Tidal Assault Lamau, but I don't know. This card would have gone hard in G. They printed this card back in 2017. It would have been really good. Unfortunately, it's 2024. It's been 7 years, buddy. But good art. That's all I can really say. But it really feels like for Stoicheia. Yeah, you can play it for the energy charge, I guess. It's generic. It's generic for energy charge. If it drew a card, it'd be even better. But I think focusing too much on the tier dragon stuff might take us away from the fact that Zorga is really amazing. Zorga, when I asked a bunch of Japanese players at the Sendai Deluxe that I went to what they think is the best of the new decks, everyone was like, Zorga 100%, but if it's somebody that's picking up Zorga just to play it in tournaments, probably not going to do too well, because Zorga is very technical, Zorga takes a lot of time, and Zorga also is, you know, it's like when you're playing a team tournament, and in Japan you can assist your teammates. It's like, you look at your teammate playing Zorga, I have no idea what's going on. It's like, I don't know what all these orders, like, are you Alchemagicking? Did you drop these? Like, what's happening over here, you know? So it's kind of like, it's good for Zorga mains, but if you just want to pick up, like, if you're like, I'm going to build the best deck and win all the tournaments with it, when Zorga's the best deck, that's going to be a little bit tough. So it's a little unfortunate, but yeah, I guess you could play the energy charge just for the EB4 of the grade 2, but I don't want to focus on Zorga too much. I got a really good booster too. This thing is pretty cracked. It's like 30k booster behind anything, 50k booster behind Zorga, and as long as you have 2 or more different normal orders in your bind zone, it lets you give any rearguard plus 10k and then retire at the end of turn. So Roaming Prison Dragon gets another plus 10k, which is pretty good. We like that. You have the Order Searcher, which again works really well in Zorga, so we like that too. And then you have this order that lets you have retire and power gain in Zorga, which is also pretty good. And then you have this thing that gives the cards cult from drop plus 5k, which is also pretty good. So Zorga got a new round line and all that kind of stuff, so it's like you got some good support here and there, but I think this one is a little bit lacking. Despite, like, again, if you don't know what the card does, it's in drop, start of battle phase. If you have Vanguard as Zorga with a Divine Skill, in your Alchemagicking, this card comes out of the drop, and if your opponent's Vanguard's on grade 3 or greater, it gets a crit. So it doesn't get the crit if you're going first, which is a little unfortunate. And it costs Energy Blast 4 when you call it to also bind a card from drop, sorry, normal order from drop, in order to gain plus 5k for every different order in your bind zone. So thing is also, it's like you're only gonna have like 2 on the first time you use this, so you only really want to use it in like turn 4 when you have like 4 and it gets plus 20k. It's like, whoa, that's huge. But I feel like it's a bit of a disappointing card, and a lot of people are playing this card as like a 1 or a 2, like maximum 3, so leaves a little bit to be desired, I think. But we'll see how things shape up after the first wave of tournaments. A deck that I've been purposely not talking about as we go through this that got really good support in this set is Lascaria. Lascaria got this thing that on call lets you Soul Blast 2 and revive a Vereno card that isn't himself, and he gains boost and 5k too. So he's also Vereno, which that deck of course really needed a lot of. So we got 1 Vereno, 2 Vereno. End of turn, if you have 5 Vereno units or more, CB1, bot deck it, choose 2 Blitz orders from drop, add them back to your hand. Pretty damn good. However, another long game deck. I feel like I need to make a video talking about the problem with long game decks. It's not so much the problem with long game decks, but it's more the fact that Bushiroad keeps making long game decks in a game where the competitive timer is 25 minutes. It's not enough time. We need 30 minutes. I'm just gonna start saying that in videos bit by bit and eventually make a full video, but really good. Then Verino got an actual Mega Colony card. This paralyzes your opponent's rear guards. Well, chooses one and paralyzes it for CB1. So it's a bit pricey, CB1, but you countercharge so much in this deck, you don't really care, right? Your CC1 on like whenever you play a Blitz Order, so that's pretty good. Speaking of Blitz Orders, it's a generic card, but we can introduce it together after introducing Verino's cards. This might be one of the best Blitz Orders ever made that isn't called Elementary Sanctitude, because when you play this, you CB1, you give the attack unit plus 10k, and then you give your Vanguard the effect for the turn that whenever your opponent's front row unit stands, or whenever your opponent's front row unit is placed on rearguard circle, your Vanguard gets plus 5k for the turn. Shoo beep 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 beep. That's what he says. The flavor text is shoo beep 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 beep. It's this thing says, oh, you called Obscudade, haha, 5k. Oh, you stood multiple rearguards, haha, 5k. Oh, you full blasted, haha, fuck you, 5k. But this is a really good Blitz Order, especially in Lascaria that refunds the counterblast, by the way. But it's insane. This is a really, really good card. Really, really, really good Blitz Order, and I hope they make more of them. This card is ridiculously good. It's ridiculously good. So again, Verino's really good. They gave token deck support. This thing draws you cards and gets buffed. Super good. They gave this thing that's like, as long as you have another copy of him, all your grade 0 rear guards get plus 5k. It's like Roroa, freaking Granfia, like all those token decks, mega buff. Unfortunately, some of the commons leave a lot to be desired, like especially these two are kind of like whatever. But honestly, Stoicheia was actually quite good this set for the most part. The triple rares leave a bit to be desired, so I think they introduce, you know, very, very good deck. They give some really, really good support here and there. There is a little bit, yeah, ugly starter -1 point. That's it, 2 out of 5. But I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I think initially when I was rating this, I wanted to give it a 3, but honestly, if I gave Brand a 4, this also gets a 4. I think it's only fair to do that. And that leaves us with only one nation, which is Lyrical Monasterio, not counting Bang Dream. You guys get all the Bang Dream stuff in set 1 of Divine, so good stuff. But Lyrical got a new ride line and some really good support for some of the older decks too. Lyrical got a new ride line that is basically Exculpate the Blaster. So you Soul Blast 1 to search. So the name of the new archetype is Framgram. It's a Flammagy, but it's the little like katakana pronunciation is a Framgram. So Flam Glam. It's like bling blam blam bloom, like the freaking the song that everyone, all the kids. It's like in Japan sometimes you go to these parks, you know, that all the kids gather at. And like especially all the, like the middle schooler kids, they film TikToks. So you always see like you know, they're filming their TikToks, and she does it too. She's definitely filming TikToks out there. The fellow youth, that's right. How do you do, kids? But anyway, so she Soul Blast 1 to search for a grade 2 Flam Glam from deck and call it to rear, and then shuffle your deck. It can be a grade 2 or lower. So what can she target? Well, let's take a look. Oh, that's the ride line. It can search the ride line. This one retires cards. What else we got? Oh, the grade 1. This one countercharges. So you gotta play more copies of your ride line. It is what it is. But it's not the end of the world. She says at the end of the battle that she attack, if you have 3 or more different named Framgram units, CB1, and then you ride the grade 0. You ride the grade 0. That's right, the grade 0, the 6k grade 0 from your soul as stand. It loses its auto effect because God forbid you could draw from going second after the first turn, and gets plus 2k for every card in both players' damage. So if you're both at 5, it gets plus 20k, which is kind of cool. But if you're at 3 and your opponent's at 2, also gets plus 10. So it's a whole whopping 16. That's crazy. And at the end of the turn, you ride back into the grade 3. So it's not super bad, but that's kind of what I mean by it's Exculpate the Blaster. It's just Exculpate the Blaster. So I don't know. I don't rate this ride line too highly on its own, but there is one card that might convince me otherwise, which is Ricaris. I really like the art of this card. It is drawn by Koyoi Mitsuki, who is also drawing the upcoming Vispo collab ride line, one of them. But I really like the way it's drawn. I've said this every single time I've shown this card on stream, by the way. But this card says, when your Flamglam Vanguard attacks, you can CB1 and choose a Flamglam from your drop and bot deck it to draw 1 and give yourself, the player, you, the skill, you, that all of your Flamglam units get plus 5k. So you usually only have like 3 of them on board, right? But it's pretty good. You line up 2 of these. The thing is that she doesn't disappear from the board. So you can just have 2 of her on the board and CB1 and use this effect all the time. And the thing is that you do have a countercharge in this deck. And the countercharge you can call out every single turn. So it might actually be worth cooking. The more I read it, the more I feel like there might be something happening here. So this card alone makes it a little good. She stacks with Valsh. She kind of is Valsh, you know, but for Flamglam stuff only. But she does stack with Valsh. You can stack herself twice too. So that's also pretty good because it's you, the player. You got multiple skills, you know, you can wear 2 watches. Nobody's gonna look at you weird. It's fine. But so that's Flamglam. It's a pretty cool ride line. But we also have support for everyone's favorite, Chris Rain. So of course, Chris Rain is the fated one of Banka. What was it? Ever changing. So when your Chris Rain Vanguard selects her by an effect, which of course is usually the 15k power edition of Chris Rain, she gives your Vanguard plus 10k. Really cool. So she's a 25k attacker at minimum, and she makes your Chris Rain be 23, which is very nice. And when she attacks, this is the best part of it. When she attacks, if you have 3 or more different units, she gets plus 5k. But if you have 4 or more different units, at the end of the battle, she she bounces one of your other rear guards back to your hand. So that means if you have a Cycler, get that back. If you got a Valshbon, get that back. You call your Persona Rein, get that back. Doesn't matter. She's basically Yuika, but doesn't Soul Blast. Does need you to play different units. So it works in Highlander, works in Chris Rain, and I guess in other decks that don't need the same rear guard multiple times. So I'm sorry, Willista. It's not going to fit in you though, but it's a very good card. Has generic applications too, so I really highly rate that. And this Kyoka card is also really good. So in the deck, she counts as a magazine if you have a Kyoka Vanguard. And at the end of the turn, if she's in the back row, she retires herself to choose a Kyoka from the drop or a magazine card from the drop and add it back to your hand. So let's get back Persona Rights. And don't forget, we have a dress up Kyoka coming up in the next Lyrical Booster. So that's going to get even better. And the best part is that you're thinking, wait, what does it matter that she counts as a magazine in deck, right? There's nothing that calls her out. Wrong. When placed on rear combos 1, search your deck for a magazine and add it to your hand. Very nice. So you can search a magazine when you need it. When you don't, you call her out. How can a girl be a magazine? How can a transformer be both a robot and a car? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, dude. Don't question it. So Kyoka got some cool cards. You know, got some cool cards. He got herself a strong rear guard. Got herself a searcher for that strong rear guard. And also she got this one as well. So this is a grade 3 that start of battle phase, if you've played a magazine, goes to soul, draws 1, and use a grade 2 or lower unit card, gives it plus 5k. Fortunately at the start of battle phase, so you have to like awkwardly place her somewhere. So it's mostly these 2 cards that are really good for Kyoka. There's also some like generic cards, quite a lot of generic cards this time. So this one's like, when not placed by unit card's ability, Soul Blast 1, your opponent bounces a rear guard back to hand and then can put any card from hand to bot deck. So you can let them bot deck their OT. Kind of interesting. This one searches your normal orders, and this one does the order thing that every other nation does, which is also good. Flamgram Searcher, pretty good. So some good Flamgram support. Then this thing is kind of whatever. It's like when boosted, Soul Blast 1 give another rear guard the ability to boost. This card is quite good though. It's a grade 1 that when placed, if you have no other rear guards with the same name as her, then you choose one of the following abilities. One of them is if you have 4 or more units, she CB1s to draw a card. The other one is to Energy Blast 3 to gain 10k. So honestly, both effects are quite good. So this is a really, really good rare actually, in my opinion. So honestly, some good rares for Lyrical. A Flamgram 15k shield, which lets you recycle. They all recycle the Flamgram units because you have to keep calling them and make sure you can keep, you know, countercharging and retiring and all that kind of stuff. And then of course the Marylane Recycler. And then this order, which also I quite like, which is a grade 3 that lets you rest the rear guard to play it, and then you look at top 3 of your deck and call 1 to rear and put the rest at the bottom of the deck. So very, very generic, and honestly for common, sounds pretty good too. Doesn't cost anything, like resting a rear is not that big of a deal. So my verdict on Lyrical, Framgana is really hard to say if that rad line is good or not. I personally have some question marks on it. I do think it's decent, but I'm a bit sus on the power, so not sure how I should rate that. The Kyoga support seems okay. The Chris Rain support seems very good. And the generic stuff seems alright. Everything seems okay. I think I've used the word okay a bit too much. So I think we're gonna give it 3 out of 5. I think Lyrical gets a 3 out of 5. It was really good last set. I'm pretty sure I gave Lyrical a really good rating last set. If I'm mistaken, I'm fine with that. If Framgram ends up being cracked, I'm fine with that. I'm cool with being wrong, but for the time being, I think they're okay. But we also have some high rarity stuff for Bang Dream in this set, which includes some cool parallels and whatnot. And of course, don't forget, we do have still some secrets in this set. Most importantly of all, we do have the secret Blagdmire. I'm opening a case tomorrow, by the way, or today when you're watching this, so make sure you tune in or you'll see the highlights of it later as well. We have, of course, oh my god, oh my god, oh, it's so good. The Liela Morta secret, it's beautiful. Liela Morta has so many good looking parallels. Secret looks amazing. Silver Rare fits her so well. Her FFR is gas. Her like light beams or her wings, whatever these like little streaks are, go over the border of the FFR. Cinema. Cinema. 100%. And then, like, honestly, this is the best DSR ever made. This is next to Tomari's. Tomari is also really good, but this and Tomari's, it's something about the, like, it's the female character sitting down with their boss unit behind them. Somehow it just works out. They should do this more often. I really like the Megumi one too. They should sit, like, characters should sit down more often. I don't know what they're doing with some of the other ones. The Trickstar one is also really good. They should sit down more often. Sitting down is pretty good. You know, you should rest for sometimes. You know, you work too hard. You should chill. So really like this one, especially because Liel really feels like she would fit in a Clamp anime. So I think that's another reason why. So big fan of this one. Honestly, I hope that I pull some form of a parallel Liel in my case. I would be pretty happy about that. I'd be pretty happy. But that is it. Very long initial first impressions of the set, but honestly, I see that as a good thing because I think that being able to talk for this long about a set, we've been sitting here for about an hour, but being able to sit down and talk about a set for this long means that there's interesting things to talk about in the set, which means that they did a pretty good job. So I walked into the set kind of going like, man, I feel like there's less interesting cards in this set compared to last time, but honestly, I walked out thinking, there's actually more than I expected. So I'm very excited for set 2 format, very excited to be grinding Vanguard this season. Tournaments have finally started in full force now. We only had one big event officially from Bushiroad for the set 1 format. So this is actually going to be our, like, this season will have, this set in particular, will have quite a few events. Festival Booster will also have some events too, but it's going to be very exciting. There's a lot of CS events. I'm actually playing in a CS next week in a team. So it's gonna be pretty exciting. Gonna be doing some testing over this week to decide what to bring, but it's pretty cool. Overall, I think Divine Set 2 is a pretty big dub. We rated most of the nations pretty highly, and there's actually more cool cards to talk about than I expected. So looking forward to opening my case. Make sure you tune into that as well. And of course, you know, stay posted on everything that's happening. I know that the English side is still waiting another month for set 1, so I'm going to get a bunch of content out for you guys for set 1 as well, so you can enjoy it when the English version of that comes out. But of course, also look forward to all the cool stuff for set 2 as well. But with that, that's going to be it for me today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel too. I also recently revived my second channel, and I recorded a bunch of stuff for that. It's going to be going up over the coming weeks, so also sub to the second channel. And if you want to support the channel, if you want to support what I do, you know, I try to put on some events and whatnot and do other things, and YouTube channel memberships help fund that. I'll be posting more channel member videos going forward too. I unfortunately got sick in March and couldn't really post. You probably noticed my posting rate in general went down quite a lot, and I was just posting pre-recorded videos for a bit, but I'll be posting more on the YouTube channel memberships as well. So If you want to become a YouTube channel member, get some bonus content, then consider doing that too. But with that, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.